this guy Mamushi, the Shinju clone, was defeated in a way that I'm seeing that not too many people are liking, right? Not definitely a lot of people weren't expecting. Me personally made it that much better of a story overall, but is this guy a fraud? In Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 33, we finally see the end of the Ten-Tail Shinju clone, this guy Mamushi. And honestly and truly in speaking, going into this volume, because chapter 32 ended off the last volume and 33 was the start of a new volume, I already knew his time was coming. At this point, he's been long running just the solo antagonist, for the arc for going over 5 to 6 chapters, and that's the longest for any Shinju up until this point, aside from obviously this guy Jura and Hidari, who already played a major part earlier on in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. But it didn't necessarily take this long to take care of Matsuri and Ryu. Granted, there was a whole lot of talking, especially on Matsuri's end, but then once the hand started being thrown, the intensity and the stakes all reached this climax very quickly. With Mamushi, things were definitely dragged out, and even with Hidari's first time around, he got packed up and up out of there fairly quickly in under 2 to 3 chapters. So this guy Mamushi was here for a while. Now, going into the arc, I called it. I've said this time and time again, especially when it comes to people like Konohamaru. When you expect great things and great things obviously aren't going to come, you're gonna have great disappointments. So from the perspective and the eyes of the majority of the fan base, I guess, or the people who thought Mamushi was really about that, they thought great things were gonna come, as opposed to actually being dealt with swiftly, whom I thought on my end Daemon would have absolutely no problem getting the job done. Ironically enough, it was still Daemon's ability in combination with Inojin's ability that took down this guy Mamushi, but the equation of including Inojin in that entire scenario is something that threw most people off, and I guess added much to the distaste. And definitely the word fraud, definitely underwhelming. Disappointment is being thrown around, and I'm like, of course you're gonna get disappointment if your expectations are already too high to begin with. Now, going into the arc, it's already been established what Daemon's stance was at in terms of the power hierarchy, so I had no doubt in my mind that he would have no problem in terms of actually overpowering this guy Mamushi. It was always a matter of how his hacks, how his ability, especially pre-understanding his actual cloning technique and how that worked, how that would be able to get one up on Daemon, or how he would be able to simply avoid fighting or defeating Daemon overall and just getting to Ada. And we see that was the main issue, especially once Daemon got on the battlefield, protecting Ada and not letting Ada get swarmed or overwhelmed by the enormous amounts of Mamushi clones that just swarmed the battlefield. Now, people started to see Daemon get tired, and then they started to throw the word fraud. Everybody likes the word fraud around with my guy Daemon, and it is actually crazy because I'm looking at everyone, I'm like, okay, so is that telling you that he is too tired to fight, or he's simply just getting a little tired? Once you constantly just fight in an endless battle and an endless swarm with an opponent that could continuously clone and just continuously appear on the battlefield, it gets a little tiring after a while, especially if you're just continuously killing them and stepping on them endlessly, like you saw them fly through a mountain of dead bodies. So I don't know what else you guys wanted to expect. So it just simply became a situation where Daemon resorted to the default, simply fly away Ada. It doesn't matter if you're not fast enough, because she noted how much faster Mamushi is. He was like, I'm just gonna take care of them as they get close to you, because as long as his hands are on her and she's flying through the sky, essentially as far as apart from getting touched with something Ada probably wouldn't like, yeah, they can't really do any damage as long as Daemon is there. So that was the default plan we saw Daemon result to, and Boruto tailed behind them as he was like, I'm gonna assist you guys through the air, right? But everything changed once this guy Inojin entered the battlefield. Long story short, this guy Mamushi was gonna get packed up and dealt with fairly easily and fairly swiftly, even in a scenario where he got packed up a chapter or two ago by Sarada when she had all the remaining 50 clones up in the air in the Ohirume Jutsu before her eye broke down. at that point, that would have been, for me personally, a major disappointing moment for the Mamushi character. But his continuous, endeavors throughout the arc and adding the, friction throughout the different spots of the arc, especially with Lord Kobu, spotting the differences and being saved by Boruto and having the circumstances undergo a situation where Kobu is going to prioritize Mamushi over Boruto, allowing Boruto to be in the village and assist with the current predicament, right? And then aside from that, obviously with Sarada, who just broke down and then failed to take care of the job, her eye and her current condition and this anomaly and mystery behind her Mangekyo Sharingan, and then finally with this guy Inojin, as well as his eye and his current condition, and how Himawari was able to partake in healing him throughout the end, because we understood the strain that it took from not only taking the single collective conscious of all Mamushi clones, but enduring that fact that all 1,000 of their eyes multiplied at, I don't know, getting destroyed, all 1,000 pairs, and then having that reflect back on Inojin's body. So that had to be some type of difficulties there and some type of strain on his body. So the stakes and the results of Mamushi's initial evasion is already there and present for the most part, right? Post Sarada falling down, because if Sarada were to take care of him, the jokes would have been endless on my part, right? My expectations already weren't high, but as far as, clean them up and pack them crew, like Sarada really would have been doing her due diligence if she would have been the one to take care of Mamushi, especially at that point in time in the story. So moving forward, we already have repercussions. Sarada's condition, Inojin's condition, the unknown mystery behind Kobu and his current stance behind seeing Boruto protect the village against Mamushi, and him being the main one who's led the entire army and the entire swarm of Mamushi out of the village through the sky into the outskirts. A whole lot of questions, especially on the political end. So ultimately, looking at it from that end, was Mamushi a disappointment? No. But if you're simply looking at it from a surface level, you see the big bad, you see the villain, he got a 10 tails attached to his name, he got renegades in his design. If he don't kill nobody, he's a fraud, you know what I'm saying? And we saw the alternate futures. We see futures where he kills Ada, where he kills Himawari. So we got to see some damage done. And I think that's where a lot of the expectations are lying at. They thought Mamushi was going to come here and catch a few bodies. And granted, I thought possibly maybe Kasha Koji would have been someone of the likes who was up on the chopping board in this potential arc, but necessarily for the most part, I didn't really expect much from this guy Mamushi. And I was telling people from the jump, I don't know why y'all think he's gonna come into this village and really do this guy Daemon dirty and really do this guy Boruto dirty. It's not even about the fact that Daemon is one of my favorite characters. It's the fact that he's obviously gonna have to encounter Daemon due to his goal. So it's automatically a fail. From the moment he was born, his goal was inevitably going to fail because he's gonna encounter Daemon regardless, because the future that actually happened, not the one that Himawari died or the one that Ada got devoured, is the one where Mamushi died and Daemon stands on top. So, the guy defies all odds and defies all future possibilities, right? But looking at it from that standpoint, a lot of people wanted him to come into this arc catching bodies. So that's where the main fraud allegations lie. And essentially, I'm not gonna sit here and defend the man, because I already call a spade a spade. I don't expect much from Konohamaru. So did he disappoint me versus Matsuri? I know, but I had to really emphasize the failures and the lack of efforts in his, L moments throughout that arc, because it's like, that's not what you're supposed to do as a Jonin. But throughout his history in Boruto and Naruto, this guy has failed to, succumb and surpass or even meet my expectations. So now I'm like, okay, so what he's going to do and stick to is simply side character role things that add assist or support in minor moments or minor times. Don't expect nothing big. So yeah, the double giant Rasengan, it looked cool. It added the aesthetics. Did it get the job done? No, he was on the verge of death. Boruto comes through and cleans up the day. So now what is Konohamaru's role reduced to? Simply get the soul thorn bulb of this creature out of here. Let me deal with the fighting, right? and that's what he does. So something like that is what you are to expect from these type of characters. Now, in this guy Mamushi's case, especially with the unavoidability and the unfortunate scenario where he has to face Daemon, you guys shouldn't expect greatness to be the outcome in this scenario, regardless of what Kasha Koji says, because we've seen with our own eyes what Daemon is capable of, and we've seen it actually come to fruition throughout the arc once he comes face to face with Mamushi, being the only advantage is the endless swarm of clones that he constantly has. So at this point, he's at 1,000 and counting by the end of chapter 32, and we see Daemon already take out over 100 plus previously throughout that chapter. Going into 33, the dead bodies just keep on piling up, and they keep on emphasizing as he's dying, he's multiplying. So we don't know how many clones was murdered throughout the village. It could be even thousands and thousands plus, probably up to 3, 4, 5,000 clones that ended up being killed by the majority of the group, you know, out there fighting the Mamushi clones. So ultimately, taking into account that there were no deaths, right, and he didn't come in and catch a body that a lot of you guys were expecting, is he a fraud? Yes, in that regard and in that degree, yes. For me, was he underwhelming? Yes, because I already expected him to be an underwhelming villain and to have an underwhelming outcome due to his goal and due to the mere fact that it was really not that much of a deal, especially going into the first few chapters of the arc, seeing how they were just easily killing these clones, and then getting to the point where we're just like, okay, this intelligence drop must be really a crazy dip, because we have to understand in the verse, it is a thing where you have to reinforce your body with chakra. When you train as a ninja, as a fighter, it's autonomous. It's something you naturally and instinctively do. So his intelligence dropping is something that he inevitably wouldn't do with his chakra. So in that regard, it's easy to one tap. It's easy to get him out of here, especially when his numbers start to get to a higher degree. But even in that case, like, bro, by the time, like, even before, I guess, but even by the time Boruto first pulled out his card, I knew this arc was a wrap. It was just a matter of who's gonna kill Mamushi. At that point, I was playing a guess who game for the last 3 to 4 chapters, and you guys were simply just expecting something that was never coming. So is he a fraud? I guess just for the namesake, yes, this man Mamushi is a fraud, because I guess he was even talking like he was about that and he wasn't about that, but you guys really built him up to be something, to be about that, and of course he wasn't gonna be about that. So stay tuned going up, and looking forward to the next coming potential arcs for the Boruto 2 Blue Vortex manga, especially dealing with the Shinjus, especially dealing with this guy Jura and dealing with this guy Hidari. At this point, they've already reached the level where they're acceptable, especially in the case of this guy Jura. He's earned his rights, he's earned his flowers. So I'm looking forward to see how things play out, especially with the unorthodox manner Ikimoto has been taking up until this point in terms of dealing with the Shinju and their ultimate defeat. So stay tuned for my next video. It's your boy Black 3, long face, skinny body. Let me know how y'all feel about it. Was this guy Mamushi an underwhelming, disappointing fraud in your eyes? Let me know. Comment below. Holla at your boy. Holla at y'all. Black out. Yes, sir. Ski.